let me just finish maybe one more section. Diaspora groups, including those in the United States.
That's you. That's you.
Sanduko.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Representative Gregory Mix. I appreciate.
And 2, invest in, engage, or otherwise control strategic sectors in Africa, such as mining and other forms of natural resource extraction and exploitation. So in other words, they're saying these resources are for us, not for Russia, not for China, not for anybody else. But now they're writing it into a bill to shore up and strengthen imperialism, U.S. imperialism in Africa. That's this part I'm reading right now. That's what he's talking about. Let me just finish and then let's break it down.
Yeah.
Exploitation, military basing, and other security cooperation agreements when you already have 80 military bases in Africa, right? And information and communications technology. All right, so why don't we break this down? What do we have so far?
This should have been a comedic coverage of this. We should have had cartoons showing up.
Today. I think we are putting in enough,
I will just
breakdown as well.
I will just ask you to add section F.
Wait, but we're going to go segment by segment. Okay. What we had so far. We're going to finish this entire bill.
Yeah. Okay. There's a lot there to swallow. My mouth is full and I'm having trouble.
We have enough time. We're going to finish the entire bill.
Okay, so I will start with the 5-year report. Okay. So you're essentially saying here is a group of countries with democratic processes in place. And they will assume that they vote in their presidents or prime ministers and what have you. But then what you're now saying is, because you're afraid of quote unquote Russians' malign activities, you are going to try to interfere with those elections. The same elections that when you had fears that the Russians were engaging in your elections, you set up an inquiry who went through what they need to go through to reassert your democratic independence. But you can't afford the same democratic independence to African countries and their populations. Can you imagine that mindset? Like, what didn't happen to me or what I thought happened to me, I am actually going to visit it on somebody else.
Even though,
is it called hypocrisy?
Even though I was responsible for the brutal execution of Patrice Lumumba, even though my own State Department wrote a memo to the World Bank saying, withhold disbursing the loans that already been approved for Ghana. And in the memo said that if you withhold it, the economy is going to go downhill. The people of Ghana are going to get disaffected toward Nkrumah, and the army will then seize power. And that's precisely what happened the next year. Okay, but go ahead.
As you say that, brother Adesoji, I remember you spoke in one of our recent shows about the World War II agreement between the US and Europe, where, and you can correct me if I have the world wars confused, but I think it is too, where Europe is in debt after the war and they come to the US and the US says, hey, listen, we're going to cover this as long as you give us Africa. You're good.
The Marshall Plan.
So do you think, because I'm throwing Russia in as Europe, do you think this is the US saying, hey, we had an agreement back then. What do you think you're doing in Africa? Step out.
No. Russia was not part of that agreement because Russia
for Western Europe.
Exactly. And Russia has been largely anti-colonialist. So Russia has history. You're talking the Battle of Adwa. You're talking anti-Second World War against Benito Mussolini. Once the African countries wanted to start asserting their own independence, they looked to Russia for weapons.
And training.
And so, exactly. So if you look in the flag of most liberation struggled countries, you will see the AK-47. And that's the reason.
Yeah.
Because that was the weapon that they used to assert their independence.
Right.
Not because what's it called? Not so much because the Russians were anti the West, but it was almost like, if you people want to be free and you want us to help you, there you go.
So are you saying that the AK-47 belongs to Russia? What does AK stand for?
That's the name, I think, if I'm not mistaken, is Anatoly Kalashnikov.
Kalashnikov.
47, and it was the gun was yes, it was designed in 1947.
A Russian individual.
And it's one of the cheapest weapons on one of the most recognizable weapons
in liberation struggle.
Right. Because when the guy said, Anatoly, when he was designing the weapon, he said it should be so easy that even a man who has never seen a spoon should be able to dismantle it and arrange it back again. It's the only weapon of its kind that can be done like that.
So let me ask you something, brothers, because as